Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud, and today we're going to be talking about the full moon in the second decan of Gemini. Spoilers. I had a little spoiler preview in there as I went live. Hope that you're all having a wonderful holiday season and have been having all sorts of abundance in your life. We're going to be going over all of the little details associated with the full moon. We're going to talk about the decans of Gemini, Sagittarius, Cancer, and Scorpio. We're going to kind of see how the new moon is, the full moon is unfolding over time. And we're going to be just answering all of your questions, talking about the astrology of the next few weeks. So if you are here, please let me know in the chat. Let me know where you're stopping in from. Let me know how your holiday is going. And yeah, it's always nice to hear from all of you. So a couple announcements before we get going, friends. We are going to be, of course, looking at this full moon in Gemini. But before we do that, a couple things. You can find me over at spencermichaud.com. I have all sorts of things you can engage with readings, with the astrology of the moment. There is opportunity to book a reading if you want to work with me personally. You can also go over and find my digital store where I have 50% off for the holidays from now through Friday, December the 5th. All of the recordings that I have over at spencermichaud.com are 50% off. All of my decan webinars where I talk about the synchronization of tarot and astrology and the 10-degree sections of the zodiac, the fixed stars, the mythology associated with astrology. All of that is 50% off. You can find a stars and cards webinar where I talk about the connection of tarot and astrology and break down the tarot in great depth. I also have a series called Dignity and Devotion with my beautiful partner, Tanya Andrews, where we broke down the 7 traditional planets, talked about how to craft a ritual and magical practice associated with those. You can find that over at the store as well. Speaking of Tanya Andrews, she's here today. What's up, Tanya? I can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself? There we go.
Hey, hey, hey.
What's going on?
Sorry, I was clonking around because I was drawing my eyes on. Hey.
So I thought I'd bring Tanya on today just to talk a little bit about Third Coast Mojo, because Third Coast Mojo is having a sale as well, right? What do we got going on? What do we got going on over on Etsy with Third Coast Mojo?
25% off all of my astrologically crafted materia and conjure items. I have a new item, which is this super sparkly. I don't know if you can see it. Look at that. That is the Midnight Money soap. So that's a soap that I designed to manifest and hold on to money. And so it has a really beautiful energy. It's loaded up with all kinds of good herbs. There's cloves in it. There's shredded money. It has a lot of really beautiful biodegradable, because we love the environment, gold glitter on it. And it's really fun. And I also am having a lot of biodegradable gold glitter all over myself too, because that's the nature of glitter.
What's the election that one's from? What's the planetary magic infused into it?
That one has some really nice herbs and spices from my last election with Jupiter that I released officially, which is the Jupiter in Pisces. And I do have a Jupiter in Cancer one that I am bottling up and getting ready to launch ASAP. So stay tuned for that. It's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with people.
So we've got some awesome Jupiter in Pisces energy in that Midnight Money soap. And you've got some Jupiter in Cancer materia coming very soon. You have some new Venus stuff too. What kind of Venus stuff you got going?
I do. I have I'm listing it. I'm kind of doling it out, but you can see here, this is the Peaceful Home. So this is kind of a classic conjure formulation. It is designed to promote tranquility. It's got a beautiful little piece of selenite in it. It has lavender and passion flower, all kinds of good stuff for kind of creating a really serene environment. That's a Venus in Libra election, I believe. So it's just really sweet, really gentle, good for getting along.
Oh yeah,
Taurus.
That's a Taurus one, Tanya. Come
Also
on.
sweet and gentle and good for getting along.
I've been wearing the Peaceful Home, and
He's been
it
marinating in it. Our
smells
home has never been more peaceful.
it smells really good.
It does. Yeah,
Smells
the
really good.
essential it's an essential oil and isolate blend, so I use only all natural fragrance components for my essential oils. So there's lavender, a little whisper of rosemary, and some kind of really beautiful floral element. So it has a really like sweet, calming energy, which I really like a lot.
Yeah, I've been wearing your Serene Queen, which is the Venus and Libra
Yeah.
election. I've been wearing that a lot too.
Hmm.
I believe that one had Venus conjoining the fixed star Spica,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, that was such a good election.
23 degrees or so Libra, third decan of Libra, helping you to stay centered while all these like things are spinning around us, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, some really good stuff. So excited to have you on here, Tanya. Excited to be able to hawk your wares, and support you with what you're doing.
It's endless,
And
endless shilling.
what
But
that's what it feels like, right? On some level.
tis the season. But it's also
Yeah.
like I think that part of what you know, what I like to bear in mind with this is that I really love the things that I make, and I make them with a lot of care and intention. And just every single one of these little bottles, like you can see, like I've just filled it with a very specific amount of stuff, and to create this really intentional, really beautiful, really thoughtful thing. And I love sharing them with people, and people won't know about it unless I tell them. Thank you for having me on so that I can do so.
Yeah, and Tanya's an excellent maker. She made a pretty amazing spread yesterday for Thanksgiving, and maybe that's why I think we're all a little sleepy today.
It's
The tryptophan has
You got
kicked in
the tryptophan
from the
hangover.
turkey, and
We
we
should
had to
still be in the food coma now
we
if
learned the
we
hard
had our
way
way.
that you have to thaw the turkey like 3 or 4 days in advance if it's frozen, and
To to be fair,
had to go through like the water method to
a mess. Next year, we're just gonna have tofu or something.
or might be. It was delicious, and you always do such a great job with all of that. So, Tanya, where
Yes.
can we find Third Coast Mojo, and how else can we support you?
Yeah. The best way to keep up with things will probably be to follow me on Instagram, at Third Coast Mojo, and you can shop with my Etsy, which is the same name, Third Coast Mojo. So if you just look for me on Etsy, that's probably the best way to see everything. And I will be making some announcements about the Jupiter stuff that I'm launching as that comes up. So stay tuned for that.
And these make great holiday gifts.
They
Would you
sure
not?
do. And this is the biggest sale I've done. Like 25% off is a lot for me because this is not cheap stuff. Like they're real like little chips of crystals, there's real gold leaf in some things, there's pure essential oil blends in things that I kind of combine from scratch myself. Everything's organic or wild crafted. A lot of things are locally sourced as much as I can. Some of the things we grew ourselves. And 25% off is it's not a bad deal.
She was at the local rock shop this morning before our live stream today.
That's
So
true.
picking up more supplies to do all the magical workings. So
Yeah,
Tanya,
I do it for the people.
thank you for being on here today and in true full moon in Gemini fashion. If one host is not enough, here's two for you today. But go support Tanya over at Third Coast Mojo. Get all your magical oils and soaps and herbs, and buy one for a friend. Send one to a friend for the holiday season. All right, friends. Um, okay. So Tanya, I'm gonna let you go now, and
Thanks for having me.
we're gonna keep on going. Peace. Love you. See ya.
Love you too.
Okay. All right. So friends, Third Coast Mojo. That was Tanya in the flesh, and or in the digitals, in your digital eyeballs today. Uh, she really does great work, and she's been working super hard at this magical business, and puts a lot of heart and thought and care into all of it. And you can see that in the webinar series that we did together as well. So please go support her on Etsy holiday sale. You've got about another week or two with the holiday sale, so make sure you take advantage of that. All right, friends. You can also find me over at my newsletter, Spencer Michaud newsletter. Tanya has a newsletter that's coming out too, but if you sign up for this newsletter, you can get updates on both of our stores and how we're going to be expanding things moving forward. And also, if you want to support the channel today, you can buy a super chat or buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. That is a great way to support the channel and become a patron. It helps us to keep the lights on here. It helps us to buy all the supplies and books and all the things that go into both Third Coast Mojo and Spencer Michaud Astrology, and helps me do this broadcast every week. So appreciate all of you. Thank you, those of you who have been able to donate. And I'm just very grateful for all of you. I wanted to say that too. I'm just so grateful for everyone that continues to support the channel and participate in the chat and watch the video. I've been getting some really nice comments after the fact as well. And I just love that you're here and love that you're spending your time with us here at Third Coast, at Spencer Michaud Astrology and Third Coast Mojo. And yeah, I want to make sure that I acknowledged all of you, and especially not only our domestic friends here in the United States, but our international friends as well. I've had people that have been starting to reach out to me from Europe, from Australia. My Australian friends are reaching out and saying, "Hey, I can't really always get it live at 4 a.m., but I'm here and I'm listening, and it means so much to me that you're stopping in and showing your support." So thanks everyone for doing that. All right, my friends. Let's see what we got. We've got some other folks stopping in here that I want to welcome. And we've got Robin here. Says, "Hey, Spencer and crew. Robin here from Healdsburg, California. I'm looking forward to what the sky will bring this full moon." Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's some Saturn square. There's a Neptune square. The sun's at the bending of the nodes. We'll talk about all of it and break it down in great detail for you today, Robin. Leanne is here, says hi from the UK. Hope everyone is well. Nice to see you, Leanne. I hope everything's well today for you over there in the UK, and it's lovely to see you in the chat again, my friend. Mr. Hindsight is here. What's up, Tom? Nice to see you. He says namaste to all. Hope that you are doing well, and hope everything's going well over in sunny or cloudy San Francisco. All right. Trauma Raised Me is here. What's up? Marietta, I think that's who we see today. Marietta, Trauma Raised Me. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming back a second week. Appreciated you hanging out with us last week and coming over from Sag Moon Magic, my daughter's TikTok account. And I'm glad to see you back here today. K Wow is joining us. Says, "Hey, Spencer and chat. Nice to see you, K Wow. Hope everything's going well your way, my friend. Thank you so much for continuing to participate each week. It's always lovely to see you in the chat today." Okay, let's take a look at what we've got going on here. Full moon, Gemini II. And we are taking a look at this full moon. It's going to happen on the 4th of December. And let's take a look at some of the bigger themes that we're going to be experiencing with the full moon in Gemini. So second decan of Gemini, I'll break that down in a second. Each decan has sort of its own kind of flavor to it, its own planetary ruler. In this case, the second decan of Gemini has Mars as kind of a co-ruler, face ruler of the sign, with Mercury being the traditional host. And we've got a number of things going on. We've got the sun and the moon at the bending of the nodes. That's when a planet is kind of going square the nodes of the moon, and we're going to start seeing all of these planets moving through Sagittarius, starting to bend the nodes and squaring the nodes, and moving away from a place of decrease and a place where we are attached to form, Virgo, and moving towards the increase of our ability to create with our imaginations, our ability to have a vision and then release our attachment to the outcome. So all of these planets are going to start going through this very pivotal moment. We had Mars that moved through the bending of the nodes about a week ago on Monday. And here we have the sun and the moon at the bending of the nodes. The sun is going to be moving towards that place of increase. The moon, in this case, is moving away from increase and towards decrease. That happens fairly regularly, the moon at the bending of the nodes. It's still important to pay attention to, but I'm looking more with intense interest and focused at these slightly slower moving planets that are going away from decrease and towards increase. We also have Venus and Mars co-present with the sun. So we've got Mars at 22 degrees of Sagittarius and Venus at 5 degrees of Sagittarius. So they are traveling with the sun at this new moon, or full moon, excuse me. And, this is going to add sort of this spicy energy to the full moon, but also helping us to smooth out our process and our process of trying to bring together uh, body and spirit to work through the challenges that we are trying to achieve and to achieve the goals that we have for ourselves. This is a period of sky time where we are going to be kind of trying to get to the end of the solar year, where we are trying to carry the weight of the final month of the year to get to that winter solstice. And in Western civilization, we kind of do the calendar reset at January 1st. Astrologically, though, there is a big calendar reset around the winter solstice, around December 20th to 21st, when the sun moves into Capricorn and the light starts to return. The days start to get longer once again. So we're feeling kind of this vision this vision that happens when the leaves fall from the trees, and we can see clear where we want to go, but we've got to tie up some loose ends, right? We've got to tie up some loose ends from the previous solar cycle. The other thing that we might be experiencing with this full moon is a Mars-Saturn square that is perfecting. It's within 3 degrees at the full moon. And Mars, of course, we talked about Mars in Sagittarius, and Saturn is now direct in Pisces. It's stationed direct as of yesterday when I'm recording this. I'm recording this on Friday, the 28th of November. It's stationed direct on Thanksgiving, the 27th. So there may be some energy of feeling kind of a stop and a start, where we are really amped up to get moving, but we've got some things that are slowing us down too, and we have to think about what kind of sacrifices we may need to make to move forward and to get to that finish line. All right. Chama raised me says, Marietta says, you got it. That's my name. Yay. I love that. I love being able to personalize everyone in the chat on some level, right? I think that for whatever reason, YouTube has changed their display here, where it's sort of your channel name rather than the name that you've chosen. So if you are in the chat, let me know if you're comfortable sharing your first name. I love being able to address you by name, and hopefully I'll be able to remember all of them moving forward. Allie is here. What's up, Allie? Nice to see you. Hope everything's going well your way, my friend. Thank you for stopping in and sharing your Friday with us. Okay, so as we are going to begin breaking down the details of this, we're going to start. I'm going to bring the screen. I'm going to bring the chart to the screen. And here is our chart. And we're going to start with the sun in Sagittarius II. So all of the details that I just was breaking down here, Venus and Mars co-present with the sun, the moon in Gemini II, the second 10-degree section of Gemini, Mars squaring Saturn, okay, and Neptune, and the lunation, really, if we think about it in whole sign. And then the sun in particular at the bending of the nodes, squaring the nodes at 13 degrees Sagittarius, while the moon is at the north bending. The sun is at the south bending, moving towards increase, and the moon at the north bending, moving towards decrease. So all of those elements are going to bring us some really interesting significations moving forward. So let's start with the sun in Sagittarius II. And I'm going to bring to the stage this Decan flashcard that helps us to get all the details around Sagittarius II. So this decan is a moon-ruled decan. Okay, so we are looking at a moon-ruled decan in a Jupiter-ruled sign. And this decan is syncretized with the 9 of Wands. Here we see a figure who's maybe sustained a wound or something of that nature. He's standing his ground, though. He is being tested. His will is being tested. And he has a goal in mind, but he is trying to figure out how to unify his will and spirit with his body, which is taken a little bit of a beating here. But you can see that he's pretty strong, right? This is a decan in Book T that is called the Lord of Great Strength, and in the Book of Thoth, the Lord of Strength. So themes in this decan associated with tenacity, courage, the strength of the archer to pull back the bow. Of course, Sagittarius is the centaur that is also an archer. Fusing body and spirit, but also sometimes facing a nemesis and overcoming adversity. Sometimes this is the resistance that we have to overcome to get to the goal that we're trying to achieve. So strengthening your will and resolve, but also learning from experience. The daimon or spirit in this decan is Kore, and Kore is kind of a generic term for maiden. And the maiden that is being referred to in this decan is Persephone. And it's not Persephone necessarily in her maiden form, though. We see that in one of the decans of Aries. This particular decan talks about the queen Persephone and the maiden that has now started to learn from experience and has become empowered through her trials. So how do we take our experiences, learn from them, and take action with them? Okay, so questions about the sun, and the sun is infusing intention into the full moon, and I think that's really important. Whenever we're looking at a full moon or a new moon, we have to look at what the sun is trying to achieve intentionally. The moon is just collecting that light and showing us potentially the form that it may take, or the form that we have to balance with that intention at a full moon. Okay, so questions to ask yourself regarding the Sagittarius to Sun portion of this. How can you turn your belief into action? How can you take your strong will and do something with it? What vehicle will carry your vision? How that could be your body, that could be a project, that could be a literal vehicle. You know, think about the chariot we see in traditional mythology and astrology, and what is going to be that chariot that's going to carry that vision, that newly liberated energy and vision from these grand water trines that we've been experiencing. So we've kind of been letting go of old form and liberating the essence that animated it. And now how do we find that new form? It's a little bit of a, sometimes it can be a little bit of a struggle at the very beginning of that. I believe there was another astrologer that someone got me hip to that was talking about kind of Frankensteining our life together after letting go of some of the old forms and then trying to figure out what the new stuff is. And we've been going through that here in our household a little bit too, as we've had some changes in our employment statuses, and we've been trying to finish up and tie up the old loose ends with those old situations, and then try to also at the same time visualize what we want to do moving forward. So how can you draw upon your experience for success? What steel is being forged in this fire? Sometimes we need to experience some resistance so that we can move forward and strengthen our will. And then finally, what is motivating you? Are you motivated by truth, or are you attached to dogma? That's a very fine line, and sometimes we think truth, or we think what we think of as truth is actually dogma, something that we're attached to, a belief that we're attached to, even if experience is showing us something different. So really important here to really consider whether you're attached to a belief that is serving you or one that may be keeping you stuck in an old cycle. So the Sagittarius II part of this lunation is really important. Okay, let's move forward. The host of the sun. In traditional astrology, we like to look at not only where the planet is moving through, the decan, the sign, etc., and what aspects it's making, but we also want to look at what the host of the sign that the planet is moving through is. What condition is it in? Does it have an open line of communication to that planet? In this case, we have the sun and Venus and Mars, who are both traveling with the sun through Sagittarius, being hosted by a retrograde Jupiter at 24 degrees of Cancer. And normally, under normal circumstances, Jupiter would be pretty stoked to be in this position in its exaltation. Now, there is some caveats to this. We do have a retrograde Jupiter. So retrograde, in the retrogradation of a planet in traditional astrology is somewhat of a debility. It makes things somewhat more difficult to manifest. Sometimes it takes back some of the things that it has given. There is another astrologer. I'm forgetting the name of them. I apologize, but I was reading about a planet retrograde in Jyotisha, Vedic astrology, Eastern astrology, East Indian astrology. When it's retrograde, sometimes it takes on the characteristics of its opposite sign. And in this case, that would be Jupiter in Capricorn, a place where Jupiter is in its fall. So a potential challenging point for Jupiter. The other challenge with this Jupiter is it's in aversion to the Sun, Venus, and Mars. And that means that it's in a blind spot. It doesn't necessarily have an open line of communication to the Sun in this case. Now, that can be a little bit troublesome because, say, you're visiting a friend's house and they're not there and they haven't given you any instructions about where everything is. You don't know where you're supposed to sleep. You don't know if you can eat the food. You don't know which doors to lock, which ones to leave open. It's a little confusing being there, and you're really getting no help from the host. And that's sort of the position we see the Sun in here. And in this case, the host is sort of experiencing their own challenges, retrogradation, right? And I do think, though, even despite all that, despite the retrograde and the aversion, the host can still give us some insight into what we were hoping to achieve. All right. So the Sun is hoping to achieve this mission with Jupiter moving through Cancer 3 of being able to balance the qualities of surplus with the challenges of scarcity. And what Jupiter does in Cancer 3 is it says, I would love to be able to increase prosperity for myself and for others through philanthropic measures without necessarily diminishing anyone else. There are other planets that move through Cancer 3 that, like Mars or Saturn, which can deny us abundance through someone else's gain. Their gain is our loss, or our gain is someone else's loss. What Jupiter is uniquely able to do in this decan, I think, is create those win-win situations where our increase doesn't necessarily lead to someone else feeling like we've taken advantage of them, or that that they are being diminished in any way. Now, again, that's the intention. Are we able to achieve that at this full moon? It might be a little more difficult. We might be reviewing the way that we are attempting to do so. When a planet is moving retrograde, a lot of questions are being asked that say, how do we work through this? What types of actions can we take that will lead to win-win situations rather than ones that will lead to someone else feeling like we've taken from them to create our own abundance? I feel this acutely in my own life as I think about how to shift my business model to be able to meet the needs of the circumstances that we are facing as a family. Some of the support that we had is starting to change, and with our employment situation, and there might need to be some changes made with both myself and my partner to try to figure out how to work through the new circumstance. It's not an easy question to answer. We live in a society that can be very competitive, and we live in a society, especially in Western civilization, that sometimes creates, not sometimes, that creates situations of inequality. And it's a real difficult question in my mind, thinking about how to navigate that. Just in my own personal chart, I have Mercury retrograde in this decan. So a lot of my thoughts are going towards, how do I create increase but without hurting someone else? How do I do those balanced interactions? If I have more than I need, how do I share it? If I don't have what I need, how do I increase it? Those are a lot of the questions that we ask here. So I think as a community, start asking yourself, if you are experiencing scarcity, how can you begin to increase your prosperity? Potentially in a way that is staying true to your ethics, that's staying true to that Jupiterian abundance right? I think one of the things that we mistake in our current, I don't know, worldview is that energy is limited. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think that when we start studying nature, we understand the exchanges that are happening, that everything is an exchange, everything is a trade. And when we have good maintenance of those exchanges, we can perpetuate things with sustainability, right? When we take only as much as we need from nature, like let's say we're foragers in the forest and we come across a bush of fruit, of berries. Maybe they're raspberries, maybe they're blueberries, whatever you find in the wild. And you start filling your basket, and you filled your basket as full as it can get, as much as you can carry home. And you leave the rest for nature. You leave the rest for the birds. You leave the rest for the squirrels. You leave the rest for whatever other creatures that you share this planet with. And by doing so, you are helping to sustain the health of that community that supports those berries so that they can flourish in the seasons ahead. You need to leave some of those berries on the bush so that they can drop those seeds or be eaten by animals and have those seeds spread and proliferate. If you stripped that bush completely of every single berry and seed, you would have more temporarily in your basket, more than you could even carry, right? Where that excess would have to go somewhere, and you might drop a lot of it along the way. If you filled your basket so full that you could barely carry it home, you may spill some of it. You may waste some of it, right? You may have some to share with others, but you'd be killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. You'd be taking to the point where the next cycle would not be abundant. And this is something that we are really struggling with as a world right now. And a lot of it is it's not everybody. It is a few bad players of the game that say, I want to collect as much as possible. I want to hoard. And I don't care if it creates scarcity on the planet. And that's something that I'm really against as someone who follows the cycles of nature, and someone who believes in sustainability. So ask ourselves our questions. How can we create the responsible stewardship of our resources? And if you really get in touch with that example that I just gave, you by limiting yourself responsibly, taking what you need, leaving a portion for the continuation of the cycle, you are helping to perpetuate future abundance. So this is a lunation, I think, with Jupiter retrograde and a Jupiter retrograde cycle that's going to help us to come to terms with that. Jupiter will station direct on March the 10th at 15 degrees Cancer. So we have a few months to start asking these questions. How do we prosper and then help the bush prosper? How do we help the community prosper? How do we do things in a sustainable way that doesn't just strip everything and then leave it barren in the future? And not easy questions to answer at this full moon, especially because Jupiter is going to be in aversion to the sun. Now, I believe there will potentially be a series of Pisces lunations, right? Where we have maybe a full moon and a new moon in Pisces, or a full moon in Virgo with the sun in Pisces, where Jupiter will be hosting in a way that it can see and has a visual reference to the sun or to the moon. And those might be ones where we've started to really figure it out. And that's going to come late February, early March. Okay, like I was saying, with Jupiter is going to be stationing direct around that period of time. So take this time to review, and then around the springtime, you might be able to put those things into action. Now, let's move forward to Gemini moon. So here is our Gemini decan. These decans of Gemini are super fun, and I'm saying that in complete sarcasm. I think that modern and pop astrology does Gemini a great disservice. it has characterized it as this kind of childlike energy, um, maybe with some attention problems or something like that. I think that that's very surface level. One of the things that stands out to me as a student of traditional astrology is the nature of a sign, I think, has a lot in common with its house placement in the Thema Mundi. And the Thema Mundi is uh, a teaching tool for Hellenistic astrologers that helps us to understand planetary dignity, etc. It was sort of a mythological birth of the world natal chart. And Gemini is on the 12th house in that Thema Mundi. The rising sign for the Thema Mundi is Cancer. And Gemini has some 12th house significations, in my opinion. And you can see this in these series of cards, the 8, 9, and 10 of swords that are syncretized with these decans. 12th house often is associated with solitude, sometimes with sorrow, sometimes with thinking things through too much, too many voices in our head, right? The 12th house also is associated with liminal spaces, in between spaces. And one of my favorite myths with Gemini and the 12th house in particular is the myth of And this was a teaching tool from, I believe, the Platonic Greek tradition, where it was trying to teach about ethics, and it was trying to teach about choices that we have to make before we incarnate as a soul into a body. And the story basically tells us the story of, I believe, a Roman soldier that had died but retained his memory as he goes through the Elysium fields and sees people choosing lots to be reincarnated into the next life. And they choose these lots like your lot in life. Like that's where this phrase somewhat comes from, right? And they're choosing all these different lives with the knowledge of all the advantages and challenges that will come along with that. And he sees people that are choosing great power, but they may have to create great atrocities to achieve that great power. And it's sort of this meditation on how do we incarnate into a humble life, one with humility, one that is helping to contribute to society, etc. So if you can imagine having a whole handful of lives that you could live and understanding everything that that would entail and the difficulty it may be to make that choice moving forward, you can understand why some of the cards in Gemini or some of the experiences of Gemini may lead to not necessarily wanting to make that choice or having difficulty making that choice. This decan of Gemini is a Mars ruled decan, and it is in the middle of the sign, and it represents sort of this anxiety of not necessarily knowing which direction to go. And I think that this is probably one of the main themes we're going to see at this full moon is we may be feeling a little bit confused about which direction we want to go. We have a lot of choices in front of us. We are starting to understand the ramifications of that choice, both ethically and materially. We have both the sun and the moon at the bending of the nodes. These choices have consequences, right? In one of the myth of Earth stories, I believe someone could choose to become like a great emperor, someone who is very empowered, but he would have to create all sorts of murderous things, or I believe even towards his own family to achieve that power. I mean, so think about like the trade-off with that, and how to a lot of us who are very self-reflective, and I think hopefully this community is one that is rooted in kindness. That wouldn't be a hard choice. We'd be like, we'll pass on that one. But in the story, these were difficult choices for people who hadn't had the experience, as many experiences being incarnated, and the pain that can go along with that, with creating suffering for others. So I think this is a little bit of a turning point that will show us our options. It's an exploratory full moon. It's one where we may feel like we're pulled in multiple directions. And I think we're still mourning the loss of the old forms. We're not quite ready to plant all those new seeds yet. That time is coming, though. The beginning of January is very powerful for seed planting, and then the spring equinox, we might start to see those things really taking form. So I think that this is a very good full moon for asking questions, for exploring like a little butterfly that is visiting many different flowers and collecting pollen, collecting bits of information. The other thing I will say, though, is how do we get through that process without letting our anxiety about those choices overwhelm us? I think part of it is accepting the ambiguity, accepting that we don't necessarily have all of the answers right away. I think that one of the things that we can do with Gemini, especially in the second decan, is allow for that ambiguity, allow for the questions rather than feeling like we have to have the answers right away. I have Venus here in this decan. I love asking questions. I will rarely make a declarative statement that is not framed in a provocative question, right? So it leaves space for us to change our mind. And I think that's really important. I think it's important for us to leave space to change our minds, because oftentimes we have new information that comes that through experience can create a different outcome. So I think that this decan, juxtaposed with the decan we just talked about in Sagittarius, we may be feeling like we really need to pull it together to get to the finish line, but we've got a lot of things pulling us in many different directions. If you think about this on a practical, just mundane level, the beginning of December is often in America and other, industrialized nations, Western civilizations, capitalistic nations, it is often a time where people are doing a lot of holiday planning. They're doing their shopping. They're trying to ask questions like, "What do you want for Christmas? Who's going to drive here? Where are we going to meet? Who's going to be responsible for this meal?" All of those things. If you're lucky enough to have those relationships, and it can feel like we're trying to juggle just a million different desires, not only our own but other people's. I will say, since 2020, since the pandemic, I've kind of started to opt out of holiday, all of that kind of thing. It was never something that I was extremely comfortable with as a somewhat of an introverted person, having to run around in a time frame where I think nature is asking us to be reflective and just slow down a little bit sometimes. It was very uncomfortable, like just going out, doing all the shopping and all that crap, like doing excessive capitalism just wasn't my thing. And I have the perfect excuse now to say I'm opting out of that, for the most part. You can never opt out of it completely. And sometimes we do have to conform, not only for ourselves, but for other people that we care about. It's harder to opt out of all of these traditions if you have children or if you have family that are very much attached to those traditions. But I do think there's a way to do it that is balanced and that helps preserve our sanity. So I think that that's one of the things to reflect on with this, especially with the moon in Gemini here. Javier is here. What's up, Javiera? Hope you're doing okay, my friend. Hope that everything's going well your way and that you are having a good holiday wherever you're at right now. And hope that things are going well, friend. Cosmic Girl is here. Says good morning from Australia. Another Australian friend stopping in. Thank you for letting me know that you're here, friends. I always love seeing all my friends, especially my international friends, like Javier's joining us from Canada, Cosmic Girl from Australia. I had a really nice comment from a user. I believe the first line was Ebony something in Australia. Appreciate you, friend. Thank you for letting me know that you're here with us, even if you couldn't join live too. It's really important, I think, in these modern times where I think there are forces that want to separate us and that want to create more paranoia and xenophobia, that we connect with each other, that we talk to each other, and that we start bridging the gaps, because I really believe that we are one people that share this beautiful planet, and all of our choices affect everyone else's. And one goes back to that Jupiter and Cancer. How do we get to an Earth, a world, a community where all nations can prosper without this kind of extractive and exploitive energy between countries, between wealthy nations and developing nations, et cetera, northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere? I think it's an important question to start to ask. How do we create a more just world for everyone, and not just for each other as humans, but for the plant and trees and animal friends that we share this planet with as well? So important. So just a little reflection and a little piece of that is you joining me from around the world, and it fills my heart up. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the host of the moon. So in this case, we are going to be seeing the moon hosted by Scorpio Mercury. Okay, Mercury in Scorpio 3, 22 degrees. Mercury is also in aversion to its host, okay, or to the planet it is hosting. I should say that. That would be more accurate. So we have the moon in Gemini 2. We have Mercury in Scorpio 3. It's in a blind spot, but it is also going through a grand water trine. And it has already gone through this grand water trine twice, okay? We saw it starting to perfect direct, and then it retrograded backwards, and then it hit that grand water trine again, okay, retrograde, and now it's going to, at this full moon, it's going to hit that grand water trine direct for the final time. And this is the last planet for the time being that is moving through that grand water trine with Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune. So this is sort of the penultimate like release, right? Mercury, again, is a planet that questions. It is a planet that helps us to ask a lot of the good questions. It says, what are we trying to achieve? What are the doubts that we have? How do we separate things into manageable pieces and categories? When Mercury is moving through this decan, a lot of the questions may bring our minds back to the forms that we need to let go of. Especially look at the Gemini and Virgo areas of your chart to say, hey, let's ask whether we need to glamorize what we are letting go of or not. This is a decan that is associated with Venus, even though it is a Mars-ruled sign in Scorpio. And sometimes what we will tend to do is we will tend to have this really nostalgic feeling throughout Scorpio. Scorpio is actually somewhat of a nostalgic sign, somewhat like Cancer. It's different. There's nuance to it, but Scorpio is somewhat hanging on and for dear life to the dying form sometimes. I would say that Scorpio tends to revisit something for the specific purpose of squeezing out the last essence and juice of that so that it can be discarded and let go of, right? Cancer, sometimes Cancer just wants to live in that past, completely. As a Cancer sun and Mercury, there's a feeling of a desire for timelessness and return to a womb-like state that is very powerful. It's a very powerful tidal pull that can happen with Cancer energy. But the Scorpio energy, there's some similarities. But in the second 10-degree section of Scorpio, we are revisiting something, being nostalgic, squeezing all the juice out of it. And hopefully, when we've gone through that second part of Scorpio, we've identified what needs to be let go of in the first, and we're grieving it. We revisit it temporarily in the second decan. In this third decan, if we continue to hang on to the old form, there will be more and more debauchery that will happen, more illusions that we have to convince ourselves of to not change. Does that make sense? That's part of the illusionary successes. We have a spirit in this decan called Kairos, the opportune moment. And Kairos can only be grabbed from a little lock of hair on his forehead from the front at the opportune moment. When that moment is past, it is gone. You can't necessarily reinvigorate it. Like, think about, we talked about the Frankenstein themes. I think it's really appropriate because a lot of times when we're trying to reanimate something that is already past its Kairos moment, it can lead to chaos. It can lead to destruction. It can lead to ethical lapses. So I think that this is another really important meditation for this full moon is, what are your options moving forward? But also, how can you fully embrace the release, right? How can you fully embrace the releasing process, the composting process, before you start planting those seeds at the next cycles? The next cycles, the really big next cycles to me, we do have a new moon in Sagittarius 3 coming up that I'll talk about. That's really the the last new moon of the old cycle. But those Kazimis of Venus and Mars in early January, really powerful new starts for visioning your new material reality that you want to create. So go through that letting go process. Go through try not to overly glamorize something that is already past its prime. Check yourself if you're doing things to keep something alive that isn't serving you or the other people in the situation. Ritualize that grief. Recognize that when you finally let go of what you're hanging on to, it's going to create the fertility for the future. When you compost something, it doesn't just decay and disappear. It decays and becomes fertile soil, the fecund soil of the spring. It becomes the next place to plant your seeds. And if you don't do that, the environment for planting your seeds is not going to be as supportive. You're going to just have soil that doesn't have any nutrients in it. So by going through that composting process, by leaving the leaves, so to speak, right, and letting them decay, rather than sweeping them all up and sending them somewhere that you can't see, but they're still there, by dealing with it and facing it, you are creating a much better condition for your future growth. We don't get prepared for this very much in America, in Western civilization, North America. I don't know if Canada is included in this, but maybe Europe too. I'm sure that there are places in Europe that deal with death better than we do here in America. But we don't really get prepared for letting go. We have been given the propaganda that the number always needs to go up, that we always need to be manifesting growth or we're a failure. And I'm here to tell you, people, that that is one of the greatest lies that you've ever been told. And it's not how this planet works. It's not how the cyclical rhythms of nature work. It's actually very, very destructive. And it's not just destructive for our economic systems, for our planet, but for our emotional selves. How do we release that destructivity? It's through letting go. It's through ritualizing the release process. It's through accepting that form changes. It's through accepting and having faith that if we do let go, we will be able to be reborn like a phoenix. This is one of the themes that you see with Scorpio, is the rising from the ashes, the rebirth process. But we have to have that ritualistic death to get to that next stage. All right. Check in with our chat here. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna start breaking down how this is gonna unfold over time. All right. Okay. Oh, I was forced, but I'm welcoming it, Javier says. Maybe with the changes, right? Referring to some of those ritualistic letting goes, releases. Yeah, I'm sorry that you're having a challenging time, Javier. I hope that you're getting the whatever help that you need with the situation that you're in, and that you're able to return back to center or balance, or have Have that stability return to your life, friend. Okay. So let's bring up the chart once again. Before I do that, let's take a little stretch break. What do you say? So do me a huge favor, friends. Please like the video. If you're on your mobile phone, like it. We have two separate ways to enjoy the live stream now. We have one where we are just having our landscape mode on YouTube. And now we have the option to experience these live streams vertically. So like if you're out and about and you want to still listen and see some of the things on the screen a little bit bigger, would be able to engage with it that way. You can pull it up in the mobile orientation, and that can be really helpful. So whether you're on the phone or on your computer, please like the video, subscribe, stretch, get a little drink of water, get a snack, take care of your body. All of those things are good. Okay. So as this will unfold, the first kind of part of this that I want to look into is we have the sun at the bending of the nodes. We've talked about this a little bit, so I won't belabor the point. You know me, the belaborer of points. But I do want you just to be able to see what I'm seeing. And what I've got here is the sun at 13 degrees of Sagittarius, and it is squaring the north node at 13 Pisces and the south node at 13 degrees Virgo. This is a place where the planet is sort of at, since it's at the south bending of the nodes, it's going to start moving closer to the north node. And in the sky, it's going to look like it's increasing its, I believe, its relationship to the, is it a declination where it's increasing? It is a point of increase. Sometimes the astronomical parts of astrology trip me up a little bit. That's not my wheelhouse. I want to know what it means, right? Like, what does this mean? Like, the math part of it and sometimes the spatial part of it is not always my greatest strength. But from what I understand, the south bending is when that planet is starting to move towards the north node and towards a point of increase. So we have seen all these planets starting to move away from the south node in Virgo. South node in traditional astrology is a place of decrease. It's a place where energy is leaving the material plane. So a lot of us have experienced the decrease and the release of our attachment to how things are done, the form that they take. Virgo is very conscientious of infusing matter into a body, into a material form. Well, when the south node's in Virgo, we have to change that. The forms that we're used to are disappearing or being dissolved. And when that happens, what is left is a primordial ocean of rebirth. And we're going to see all these planets start moving towards that oceanic experience where, yes, it may feel a little bit overwhelming. Yes, there may be forces that are greater than us. Okay. But I think that one of the things to think about and to start doing with these planets at the bending of the nodes, I want you to start visualizing what you want to happen next. And instead of visualizing the worst case scenario, start visualizing the best case scenario. What would you want to create if all things were equal? What would you want to create if you had no limitations? It's really powerful. It's a really powerful manifestation technique. It doesn't always happen instantaneously. It doesn't always have to be applied to physical goods or things. We're not necessarily saying that reality works like the self-help book, The Secret, where if you just put your mind to it, you can get your second and third Lamborghini, right? It's not that. There is still rules that apply to physical manifestation. But I do believe that a dream is the beginning of action. A vision is the beginning of an intention that can move us closer to it. Now, it may take hard work. It may take patience. It may take a little time, a whole lot of precious time. It's going to take patience and time to do it, to do it, to do it right. If you've got your mind set on it, as George Harrison would say. And before that, I believe that was a Motown song as well. It's not an original by George Harrison. Man, that's an earworm. That song is. And the video is crazy too. I believe George Harrison or a stunt double does some sort of like somersault or like backflip in that video. If you're lost, go check out I've Got My Mind Set on You. It's like, I got my mind set on you. I got my mind set on you. It's gonna take a time, whole lot of precious time. It's gonna take patience and time to do it, 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 to do it right. Right? Thank you. So let's follow George Harrison's advice. You know what's ironic about that? Maybe it's not ironic. George Harrison's a Pisces, and we're starting to move towards the North Node in Pisces. So that's a great theme song for us to kind of start manifesting some of the things through our vision, through our spiritual awareness of it, through our awareness of limitlessness, through our awareness that essence can take on a myriad of forms. Think about Jupiter as the ruler of Pisces. Jupiter is he's a manifester. He in mythology, he begets children, so many children, child after child. He brings things into form, but he does so with proliferation. And when we see this primordial oceanic consciousness, there are so many different ways that the essence of something can manifest. We sometimes, when we think small and we make ourselves small, we think that there's only one way that something's going to work out. And by doing that, we limit our ability to dream. All right. And I've done it. I got a Virgo stellium, friends. I got Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars in Virgo. They're like, I'm extraordinarily attached to method. But there comes a time when it proves doesn't work anymore through your experience. So think about the abundance that comes from something like the ocean. Think of all the life that is underneath the surface and take a plunge into your imagination. Imagine that you're swimming in the depths of your oceanic collective unconscious and start manifesting or thinking about or starting to dream about what your best possible outcome might be. And you can do that for many different areas of your life. Well, you could do that. Hopefully you were doing that this past week with Mars in the Scorpio and Aries area of your chart. I witnessed a situation where somebody was being really oppressed, and at the bending of the nodes with Mars, an action was taken to help remediate that situation, and it started leading to a feeling of empowerment, and that was amazing to witness. So that's one thing with Mars at the bending of the nodes. With the Sun at the bending of the nodes, look at this Leo part of your chart. How might that area and topic associated with Leo start to dream a little bit about that? Start to have some faith in your ability to be a creative spirit soul that is having a physical incarnation. When Venus moves through that bending of the nodes, think about the Libra and Taurus topics in your life and how those can go through changes. This month is all about dreaming and the balance between the vision and taking action. All right. Deborah is here. What's up, Deborah Donaldson? Nice to see you. Says, I love that song. It's a great song. It's an earworm, man. I tell you. It's one of those songs that just gets stuck in your brain, especially if you're an 80s kid like me. Marietta says, is there a method to your madness, though? That's a good question. My depths take me to unsavory places, chthonic places. That is tough, right? And you're not alone with that, Marietta. I think it is sometimes it's important to have a guide to do that type of work, especially if the visions that you have are, trauma raised me as your screen name. If you have trauma that you're working through, sometimes those depths can be scary. Sometimes there can be sharks in those waters. That's why it helps to have a community, a guide. Marietta says, I've started transcendental meditation again. That's great. And maybe part of the process through this is facing some of those shadows in a supported manner so that you're not having to face them alone, so you can finally release those old things that we're carrying in our body, or release those old belief systems, release those old relationships and forms, so that you can create from a place of healing, from a place of newness, from a place of a new story that you're creating. So yeah, it's a lot to work through, and we all have, the monsters in the unconscious and the shadows, right? And some of those voices are louder than others for us, but um, I think just reaching out for help if it becomes too overwhelming, I think, is really important. K Wow says, yes, it's like the Mariana Trench up in this bitch. Yeah, there's a lot going on in a lot of our experiences, especially if the universe or the divine or this planet has felt threatening. We all have experiences where we're trying to heal from things, and I've gone through things in my life that have been very scary and that I'm still processing. But I do think that I think there's always help out there if we ask for it. Just being here today as a community and talking it out, hopefully that's at least some comfort and help. I can't guarantee that we're going to solve everyone's problems or heal all the traumas here, but I think just having others witness us is important, and feeling like we're not alone with it can be really valuable. So, yeah. Okay, so that's our sun at the bending of the south bending of the nodes on the 5th of December, one day after. Then we get to the grand water trine. Okay, so I'm going to have on the outer rim of the full moon the unfolding of this. Okay, so the 5th we had the sun at the bending of the nodes. On the 6th, now we have the grand water trine of Mercury perfecting. So here's Mercury 24 degrees Scorpio, Jupiter's at 24 degrees Cancer, Saturn and Neptune at 25 to 29 degrees of Pisces. So this is going to be a series of aspects that are going to be happening, okay, between the 6th and the 11th. So keep that in mind as we see this unfold. Really, really look towards your Gemini and Virgo areas, your topics. In this arbitrary Cancer rising chart, which sort of mimics the theme of Monday, the Gemini's on the 12th house and Virgo's on the 3rd house. So let's just take that as an example. And we're seeing Mercury in the 5th, okay? Instead of just telling you your forecast based on your rising sign, I know many of you would probably like for me to do that. I have done it before in the past. It gets a little, if I'm honest, it gets a little monotonous as an astrologer saying the same thing, like in 12 different ways, I guess. What I would prefer to do is, as a teacher, I would love to be able to teach you to be able to understand how to utilize this in your chart and to be able to recognize this when you're moving forward, right? How do we see the interaction between the guest host planets in a chart? So when I do like one rising sign like this, it's to demonstrate how you can do that in your own chart. So with this arbitrary Cancer rising chart, Mercury is in the 5th house, associated with romance, with children, sometimes with sexuality, with creativity, with personal creativity. Sometimes it's through legacies that we want to pass on after death. So there may be forms, romantic, creative, otherwise, that you're letting go of that will have an important effect on your sense of daily habits and routines, which is a 3rd house signification with Virgo. It may also have you confronting some of the things that you've hidden, some of those traumas that you've hidden, right? Some of those things that you've cast into shadow, with the 12th house being represented by Gemini. With this grand water trine, you may be trying to balance out a new identity, a new expansion of identity. You may be also understanding your limitations and composting old belief systems with Saturn and Neptune in the ninth house. Okay, so these are the ways that astrologers think. They are trying to take all of this information and create a narrative and a story around it that can help you to understand what you're going through and experiencing. I would be happy to do this for any of you. If you reach out and want to schedule a reading, I can break down all of these things in great detail. Every single time I do a reading, I mean, my notes always look somewhat like this for every single reading that I do with multiple pages. That's one of the things I take a little bit of pride in, is my thoroughness and the ability to be able to navigate a lot of information and make it simple to understand and make it practical in your life and help you to take the actions that you need to take. Sometimes the actions that we need to take in life are not necessarily external. Sometimes an action is coming to a place of acceptance, and we can think about how we can come to those acceptance points within a reading while also figuring out how to prepare when action is appropriate, externalized action. This is what the I-Ching teaches us, is there are some times where external action is appropriate and timely. There are other times where it's not going to be successful. And it doesn't mean that we have to feel powerless. It means that we prepare for our Kairos moment, for our opportunity. So that's the grand water trine of Mercury, which is the host of this full moon. So really, these themes are really important with this. Marietta says, it is. We share values that I hold close to my heart. And when you hit over the target, I can't help but applause. Earth care and people care and animal care and spiritual care, life care. Oh, Marietta, I appreciate that. Every time one of you friends speak towards that and to that in the chat, it helps me feel less alone. And I love that. That's what I love about doing these live streams and helping having these conversations and expressing these things. It gives me more courage to express from a more and more authentic space when I hear that the message is resonating like that, and that there are other folks out there that have some similar feelings and thoughts. We don't always have to agree on everything, friends. That's just an impossibility. But hearing that there's other people that do care about this planet and that care about this coming into alignment with the cycles of nature and caring for the earth and for animals and other people, it gives me hope. So thank you for sharing that in the chat, Marietta, and I just appreciate you being here. Robin says, I do want to schedule a reading with you. I will reach out. Awesome, Robin. I'd be happy to help facilitate that for you. And it's always lovely working with you, friend. And I know that these transits can be a lot to process. And hopefully I can give as good of guidance as I can with all of that information. Reach out. I'd be happy to help you out. Okay, let's keep going. So the first aspect that we have from the moon is a conjunction with that retrograde Jupiter. This is also a traditional technique that helps to show us what we are, how the lunation is going to unfold, really. When we have contact with a benefic planet like Venus and Jupiter, I think sometimes it's a smoother unfolding. When we have a challenging aspect to a malefic planet like Mars and Saturn, sometimes there's a frustration to it. Here we have the moon really activating that grand water trine and activating that Jupiter theme of how do we create abundance without feeling like we are going to diminish others in the process. I think there's going to be a lot of themes around that. Again, this is something that's been really on my mind as I try to support my family and support my partner through some really intense changes in our life, and really try to just to step up on some level. Not that I'm not working really hard. It's just that there's a form to it that needs to shift. And there's always these ambiguous times before something takes its new form. And when a planet's retrograde, again, with this first aspect of the moon, ask the questions, right? Review. Like when we think about retrograde, think about the RE in the beginning: review, revisit, um, refine, reform, all of those things. And I think the other thing to think about is, how do we create abundance in our lives and in other people's lives in ways that don't diminish ourselves? This is another angle to think about with this full moon. As empathic, sensitive people, sometimes as 12th housers, sometimes we tend to diminish ourselves because and fall on the sword so that we don't feel like we're hurting anyone else. And this is a trauma response. This is something that we are trained to do in our youth, is to ignore our own needs, to ignore our own feelings, thoughts, needs. And part of that comes through dealing with, sometimes we have family members that are really difficult. Sometimes we have some narcissistic people in our life that wouldn't allow us to think about what we needed. And we were always checking in with other people's feelings and emotions. And that was our safety, our safety measure, our defense mechanism. So this might be another thing to think about at this full moon is, how are we allowing ourselves to be diminished? And how do we change that? Because if you keep doing that, you won't have anything left to give. This is something that I often think about with, how do I take care of my body? How do I take care of my own circumstance so that I can be I don't know, a point of light, a point of being able to help. And this isn't just, I think, individual lives changing. Our culture, our society is changing so rapidly. We have so many new challenges to explore right now and to rise to, that if we keep doing things the same exact way that we've always done them, while we are experiencing widening wealth gaps, while we're experiencing the boom of AI use and all of the challenges that go along with that, we have to make adjustments. Or just doing the same thing that we've always done is not going to provide the resources that we need to just to survive. And that's something I've really been facing lately. And I think a lot of people have been, as I've been talking to clients and students and friends and neighbors and family. We're all going through this on some level. Marietta says there's a planet placing in an extra canonical text with those 4 planets. I think it's cyclical. Let me go find it. Oh, yeah. Or we feel like we're bothersome and we isolate. I'm dealing with that right now. Yeah, that is also a defense mechanism, right? We don't want to hurt anybody, or we don't want to, I think it's another way we diminish ourselves. And how do we give that same love and care that we want to give to others? Those of us who have, feel that empathy very deeply, we connect really well with animals. I think a lot of times because those animals will give us the unconditional love back that we desperately want to give to others. And it does feel like an even exchange sometimes. I know with my cats, like I have 2 big cats, and they just give me so much love and attention and care, and it just makes the relationship so reciprocal. They build me up so much that I'd never feel diminished by them. And that's not always true with some human interactions, right? And sometimes we try not to get involved in those situations. But I think that there comes a point, and there will come a point, friends, as Saturn and Neptune come together in Aries, where we're going to have to kind of take some risks. We're going to have to start asking, how do we take care of ourselves while still being an empathetic part of society and still contributing to the collective as well, without taking more than our fair share. Proper balance in the world means that you need to take care of yourself as well as others. Okay, So that's our first aspect. Now, this is all in the context of a Mars-Saturn square. So the Mars-Saturn square perfects at 25 degrees of Sagittarius and Pisces. Okay. Mars at 25 Sagittarius, Pisces, Saturn at 25 degrees Pisces. What might we be experiencing with this? Well, Sagittarius 3 is associated with that 10 of Wands tarot card. It is a tarot card that is shows a figure that is carrying a heavy burden, a bundle of sticks. He's got his head down. He's like driving to the finish line. We may be feeling like we want to drive to the finish line here with this December 8th Mars-Saturn square. It may be emotional, though. Getting to the finish line may tax not only our physical resources, but our emotional ones. We may be becoming acutely aware of the sacrifices that we need to make that new beginning, to let go of the old form, etc. And that could slow us down a little bit. Oftentimes, I have witnessed people with planets in Sagittarius 3 just pushing their bodies beyond their limits to get something done. I witnessed my son in Sagittarius 3, beautiful partner that you saw earlier here today, do that yesterday, cooking a Thanksgiving meal. Like, she was on her feet for a long time, and at every point I was offering to help and delegate some of this responsibility, and I think I was just in the way, and I was kind of told to not get in the way, which is often true for cooks and people who have a vision for how they want things to go. And but I think that this might be the point where we're just not going to be able to power through without acknowledging the emotional toll, the emotional cost of that, right? And I think we're going to need to get realistic about our dream, our vision, what is possible, so that we don't burn ourselves out physically or spiritually. So this is often a Mars-Saturn energy where we feel like our will is frustrated. We feel like we want to take action, but there's something just slowing us down. It's the metaphorical 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake type of aspect. So take it easy around this period of time. Give yourself some extra space. Try not to push your body beyond its limits. Delegate. If you need help, ask for it. Like, that is one of the most humble things that you can do, is ask for help. I don't know if a prideful attachment to doing everything yourself is actually that healthy. This is something I've struggled with sometimes in my life too. Like, when we have a certain way we want something done, allowing others to help us is really difficult. But it's part of the maturation process and the growth process to learn how to delegate some of that work so that we don't just burn ourselves out. We actually can be more productive if we ask for help rather than less. And every situation is different. Sometimes we'll have a situation where we have to carry a great burden to get to the finish line, but not always. Marietta says, I found it from the Pistis Sophia, book 148. Tell me more. Tell me more about what you are looking up there, Marietta. I'd be curious as to what the context of that is. There's a planet, placing an extra canonical text with those 4 planets. Yeah, tell me more about where your mind's at. Yeah, also if you were parentified as a child. Yeah. Yeah, where we feel like we had to take care of our parents rather than be allowed to be a kid. Yeah, I had that for sure. Katie says, hold on a second. I'm just going to read through this first. Okay. Well, we're not going to, Katie, thank you for being here. And I appreciate your passion, but we're not going to get into that kind of controversial political stances in in our live stream here today. So sorry about that, friend. Marietta says, Jesus said unto his disciples, when the sphere turneth itself, and Kronos and Ares come behind the Virgin of Light and Zeus, and Aphrodite came in the face of the Virgin, they being in their own eons, then the veils of the Virgin draw themselves aside, and she falleth into joy in that hour, when she seeth these two light stars before her, and all souls which shall cast at that hour into the circuit of the eons of the sphere, that 1390, that they may come, okay, that's just a page number maybe, that they may come into the world and will be righteous and good, and find at this time that the mysteries of the light she sendeth them anew, and that they may find the mysteries of the light. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, so this might be, you know, a text that may guide us, right, potentially with these planets moving through the bending of the nodes. So that's a good find there. I like that. Well, there's more. If, on the other hand, Ares and Kronos come in the face of the Virgin, and Zeus and Aphrodite behind her, so that she seeth them not, then all the souls which she cast in that hour into the creatures of the sphere will be wicked and wrathful, and do not find the mysteries of the light. Oh my goodness, that's a good warning. Okay. Well, some excellent research there, friend. And maybe that'll help guide us with the planets at the bending of the nodes, and help us move through this Saturn square. Okay. If we keep going, the other thing I will say about the Mars-Saturn square, I've often experienced not only the Mars-Saturn square, but Mars-Neptune squares. It's just sort of like a power outage, like where I just feel really tired. And, you know, normally with Mars and Sagittarius, we're like, we got to keep going. We got to keep driving to the finish line. But when you meet Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, you might just be melting on a puddle on the floor and crying it out, you know, and that's okay too. That can be healthy every once in a while within reason. Okay. So here we've got on the 10th, we have Neptune stationing direct at 29 degrees Pisces, and Mercury opposing Uranus. Now, we've already experienced the Mercury-Uranus opposition twice before, actually, I think, in its direct and retrograde motion. So the theme should be just bringing us in contact. Go back and look at when Mercury was opposing Uranus, especially from Scorpio and Taurus, to see what themes you might be able to resolve this time around. But maybe just some shocking revelations, some outside the box thoughts, and it might help us. Those revelations might help us to formulate whatever the new vision is moving forward. Now, that being said, this is also coinciding with Venus now moving through the bending of the nodes, right? Around 13 degrees or so of Sagittarius once again. So remember when I talked about checking in on the different topic in your life. So Taurus and Libra are the hosted signs from Venus. So those changes we talked about towards increase, towards visualizing what you want to create, utilize that for those topics. In this arbitrary Cancer rising chart, Libra is the 4th house ruler, associated with the home, the family, your roots. Taurus is the 11th house, with talking about groups that we're a part of. So you may be thinking about your roots and how that relates to your community. And you may be starting to wanting to visualize maybe the type of place that you want to live in that can help be a supportive community or something of that nature. You have to connect those themes. You have to navigate them and create this matrix of meaning through that. Mercury is also trining Neptune that day. The 11th is kind of a big day. You know, we've got Venus at the bending of the nodes. You got Mercury trining Neptune, and then moving into Sagittarius, right? The sun will then move into the 3rd 10-degree section of Sagittarius. We have our last quarter moon that day, where the moon is going to be squaring from 20 degrees of Virgo, and then Mercury moves into Sagittarius. So if we review that, Venus at the bending of the nodes, Mercury trine Neptune, the sun moving into a new decan of Sagittarius, the last quarter moon, and then Mercury moving into Sagittarius. Big, big pivotal moment in that week, like with the around the 11th. I know I'm just thinking out loud, but that's my partner's like second to last day at her work, and she's going to be probably trying to figure out all the details, giving all the information to the people that needs it, and then dealing with all of that emotional energy of letting go too. So you might be having something in your life like that where there's a lot of different questions being asked. There's a lot of completion of material processes. But then there's a little bit of, I think, maybe relief as Mercury moves into Sagittarius. It may speed things up a little bit too. I think that the energy of Mercury in Sagittarius in its exile leads to like taking action on our beliefs, expressing something in a way that is very passionate, right? Of engaging in speed. Okay, we had the cheetah as our animal spirit for the month of December, and this might be a time where we're feeling that cheetah sprint starting to come as we try to manifest the new cycle. On the 14th, we have Mars squaring Neptune. And again, another moment before Mars changes signs, where it's going to be squaring Saturn and Neptune, right? And again, we have to be realistic about the burdens that we can carry, about the vision that we can carry out. I do think that this is sort of the last gasp of like, all right, we thought that this was going to be one way. It turned out to be another. And once Mars moves into Capricorn on the 15th, I mean, that's when we start to get real about the next steps. We start to strategize from a practical perspective rather than an idealistic one. So what I will say, before all these planets start moving into Capricorn, start to get really clear about what your vision is. Start to get really clear about what your values are. I think this is the way to deal with the first part of December. Get clear about your values. Visualize your best possible outcome. And then once these planets start ingressing into Capricorn, that's when the physical part of this starts to take shape, right? When we start to think about, okay, well, we have that vision. What form can this take? What seeds do we need to plant? Which project, which place has advantages and disadvantages? You weigh the pros and cons when these things move into Capricorn. You initiate a physical process, okay? But you got to be clear on where you're going first. If you're not clear on your vision before you start taking physical actions, your energy can just be really diluted, you know? You can run in circles a lot. The other thing that's happening on the 15th that's, I think, really important for the month, and I'm just reviewing this. A lot of this we talked about in the astrology of December, but I'm going to take you all the way up to the new moon here with a couple more aspects to review and refresh how these things are unfolding. But we've got Jupiter heading into a malefic enclosure. So you can see here that Mars, once it moves into Capricorn, once Mars moves into Capricorn, it is going to be casting its ray on one side of Jupiter, while Saturn is casting its ray on the other side of Jupiter. Okay. And there are no traditional planets that are casting their individual rays to break it up. Yes, the moon is here, but it moves too quickly. I do think that we're going to be feeling a lot of pressure around mid-month. We have to let go of something that maybe brought us support in the past, and now we have to have the new vision to plant the new seeds, and we are struggling to do so in a way that, again, creates abundance without necessarily diminishing others. And we could feel a little stuck in that. That question is not going to be answered very easily between the 15th and the 7th. I mean, think about this just in a, I'm thinking about this in terms of like business, crafting a new business model for myself and my partner that will help us to support ourselves in our new situation. But I could see this also being just like, the holiday season. Like, we want to bring abundance to our family, but it's a little bit of a challenging economic circumstance right now. There's extra taxes on crap if you are ordering things internationally. I got a $200 tariff bill the other day, which was very painful and made me very frustrated and angry. But that's the reality that we live in, right? Uh, it doesn't mean that it will be like that forever, but it's something that we have to keep in mind. My daughter was trying to send a package to one of her friends in Sweden and figured out that it would cost $1 million to do so because of some of those costs. And we may be wanting to create abundance and share our goodness with others, but there just may be some blockages to it. And the Christmas holiday or the whatever holiday that you celebrate around this season, it could feel a little bit more limited because just of things that are outside of our control. And I guess what I will say about that, do all the things necessary to change your communities and get out and vote and hold your political leaders accountable as much as is possible in your situation. But also, abundance is not necessarily just physical stuff. And I think that when we're held in check with like being able to do good physically or share our wealth of abundance, there are other things that we can do to create wealth in our life. I am a firm believer that wealth is not just money. Wealth is not just a number in your bank account. Wealth is time. Wealth is health. Wealth is balance. Wealth is the love of your family and your community, your friends, your neighbors. That's wealth. And I think that when you feel stuck in maybe one area of your life when our economic reality is not working as well as we want it to, how do we start cultivating other forms of wealth until the moment is right to create balance in that other way that is very necessary and practical, but maybe a little bit stuck for a little while. If you're thinking about it with the holiday season, maybe your holiday tree has a few less things underneath it, but the wealth that you create is spending time with the people that you love. The wealth that you create is maybe you're able to make something for them. Maybe there is something that you can do to take a burden off of their shoulders. Sometimes just lending a listening ear can be helping to create the wealth of relationship. I think really important as Jupiter is retrograding and in that malefic enclosure is we have a lot of pressure in our lives about holding to at least in America, to a 1950s idealistic standard of what a holiday table, tree, etc. should look like. And it's just not real for a lot of people. That's just not how it ever was, or it doesn't have to be that way. I tend to be a little bit of a nonconformist with that. And I just actually just don't care that much what people think. Like, I guess that's what I will say. I love all of you and I care about you. And I care about your mental, emotional, and physical health. But as I've gotten older, I care less and less about what you think about me. And I think that the same is true about trying to uphold a standard that isn't in alignment with our values. And that's really important. That's really important to come to terms with. I'm looking in the chat here and just seeing what we've got here. Marietta says, I'm trying, but this area isn't so in tune. Some are, I needed ingredients for my Thanksgiving dinner, and a kind man brought me a box. But in other ways, they're kind of judgmental and chaotic too. Oh, yeah, well, everyone's not going to be perfect. I think that sometimes people will be helpful in one way and challenging in others, and sometimes we just have to show them a little grace, right? Definitely blockages. Same, I agree. Yes, good. Marietta says, I'm focusing on supplements and DNA repair for myself and trying to be in the right place and right time for other people. That's all you can do. Here's an example. I've been talking a lot about a neighbor that I've been cultivating a relationship with, and I check in on him every once in a while. He's like 70. He just went through a divorce, and he's by himself a lot. And in the wintertime, it's harder for people to see each other And sometimes I'll just go over and knock on his door and be like, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing? You okay? Hanging in there?" And I think that he in the past has a lot of uh, mechanical knowledge, and he helped me like with some woodworking things in the past, and now like I'm helping him in his situation. Like he's not so great with computers, so I'm helping him apply for food assistance so he can get he's on social security, and so I'm going to help him like navigate some of the the digital processes. And that's something that's the knowledge that I have to give, and he gave me his knowledge, and it's a nice reciprocal exchange, and we're creating wealth for one another. And it's not necessarily based on any material resource. It's through our knowledge and our wisdom. So there's so many different ways to view abundance and to view things that we're grateful for and things that we can offer to others, even if we're of humble means. So I just really want to reiterate in that point, because a lot of times we feel like we don't have anything to offer people if we're struggling financially, or sometimes even if we're like, oh, if our health is struggling, we feel like, oh, what do we have to offer? But sometimes it's just care and attention, you know, and that we have in abundance. If we're not as employed, sometimes what we have to offer is our time. Sometimes what we have to offer is a shoulder to cry on and to listen to other people. One of the things that I would say my love language is quality time. And one of the ways that I hope that I'm expressing my care for all of you as a community is by spending time with you, like by spending a long time with you, not just 20 minutes here, but oftentimes multiple hours, trying to just chat with you and bring awareness to the stars. That to me is what I have to give, right? And the knowledge and all of the things that I've taken in through all the books and all of my teachers, and how do I share that? That's creating abundance. And what we create is that interconnectedness between us as we do so. So as we're looking at Jupiter and malefic enclosure here, start to ask how you can cultivate your specific source of abundance. And again, it doesn't have to be material. There's so many different ways to offer your skills, talents, time to other people. Okay, 2 more things. 3 more things. Mercury is going to exit its retrograde shadow on the 16th, okay, at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. So Mercury is going to start traversing new ground, a new place, right? We have been doing a lot of reviewing, asking a lot of questions in regards to mercurial significations, and now we're going to be starting to maybe see some new things going on, right? Mercury, Mars, and Venus will all be out of bounds by the end of the month. So if you have some new ideas that come that are out from left field, experiment, try some things out, see what happens, right? The same day, the sun is going to be squaring Saturn. This is another aspect that feels a little bit oppressive. You know, we just had the Mars square. You may have been frustrated in the area of your life associated with Scorpio and Aries when Mars was squaring Saturn. Now the frustration may come with the Leo area of your chart, with the sun squaring Saturn. You may be trying to take on new responsibilities or authority in situations, but there may be some delays to that. It's temporary though. You know, I think that we may be questioning our identities a little bit around this period of time. When we're letting go of all these old forms, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for the new thing to start manifesting and coalescing into something visible, tangible, and it can cause us to question who we are. If we identified a lot with like a job that we had and the job's no longer there, then we start to think, well, who are we now if we're not this role, the roles that we play? This modern society tends to cast us into specific roles. And when those roles change, as roles often do, it can cast us out to sea in a way that feels very confusing. So this might be a period of time where we're trying to think about what our new role is going to be, but there's a little bit of confusion into it. But I do think it's really temporary. So hang in there with it. And then finally, this gets us to the end of this part of the lunar cycle. And that brings us to the the new moon in, let me see here. This is the new moon in Sagittarius 3, and it's co-present with Venus. Mercury is also there. And this new moon is going to be squared Neptune and Saturn. So that identity crisis is probably going to be baked into that next lunar cycle. But there is good news with all this, friends. The months ahead, you've got both Venus and Mars making its cazimi. I'll just move forward here so you can see this period of time. I just want to tell you, if you're struggling with this energy, this is a really powerful new start right here. Between like January 3rd and January 9th or so, a lot of these planets are getting a new start in a very practical, grounded way. So if all of this is like, it's too much, just hang in there, take a deep breath, do your journaling, ask for help if you need it, find how you can support someone, and then ask for support if you need it. And we'll get through it together. All right. Marietta says, I appreciate the time you give. Thanks so much for being here with us. Appreciate you, friend. And thank you for being a part of this and being so active in the chat and having such great insights, Marietta. I appreciate you. Okay, friends, let's wrap the day up. I got a turkey sandwich with my name on it tonight. I saw an article today that's like the sandwich you've been looking forward to all year. And this is super true. My beautiful partner, who you saw earlier today, I think we're both kind of like tired in the Pisces moon today, just after all the actions of the past week or so. But this sandwich, sourdough bread, leftover turkey, cranberry sauce, stuffing, green beans, maybe Brussels sprouts if you had them, seared Brussels sprouts, balsamic reduction, pecans, maybe some mayo if you're into that, maybe some mustard, but let the cranberry sauce guide you. I think that's the flavor profile there. And Tanya makes this cranberry sauce that has little like hints of orange and almond in it. Really good. And this sandwich, I'll tell you what, I look forward to this every single year. This is where I'm going to be going next. Like going to my weekend into what is commonly known as the food coma. And I'm going to enjoy every second of it. But before we get to that, and I hope that you all have the sandwich of your dreams, whatever that looks like to you over the course of this weekend. We've got a hexagram and we've got an animal. So let's start with this hexagram. And it's number 15, modesty, humility. We talked about that earlier. How can we cultivate a humble and modest perspective on life? So humbleness, moderation, temperance, maintaining a balanced attitude, fulfilling one's duties, carrying things out to completion. That would be really fun, right? We're trying to get to the end of the solar cycle here. We all might be feeling tired and exhausted from the solar cycle. So I'm going to read a little bit more from Jack Balkin's book, The Laws of Change. He says, according to the Book of Changes, modesty is one of the most important virtues. It is not innate, but rather is a product of long, continuous, and conscious self-development and self-cultivation. It differs from the Christian ideal of meekness in important respects. Modesty does not mean submissiveness or passivity. A modest person may be quite active in the world, working steadily and unobtrusively, making commitments and living up to them. The text says that the modest person carries things through to their conclusion. Why is this attitude modest? It is because modest people do not think that they are more important than the work that they perform or the commitments that they have made to others. Therefore, they are consistent and reliable. Modest people do not regard anything that they must do as beneath them. Therefore, their pride does not get in the way of their success. They put their work, their obligations, and their commitments before their egos. That is why they are able to prevail in the long run. It doesn't mean or imply inaction. Rather, it means acting positively, cooperatively, and harmoniously. It means respecting other people and treating them as equals. By contrast, proud people think that they are better than everyone else or act as if they were. Often their pride hides a deeper insecurity, But truly modest people know who they are and therefore do not need to engage in pretension in order to impress others. Conversely, they do not think of others as beneath them. They treat other people with the inherent dignity that all people deserve. Thus, modesty means being tolerant and accepting rather than haughty or judgmental. Now, there is a changing line in this hexagram. The initial line is changing. It says, the superior person is especially modest. That is why he may cross the great river. Good fortune. Modesty means not calling undue attention to yourself, but devoting yourself to the matter at hand. Be unassuming and determined, and that will help you to make steady progress. Carry out your business quietly, efficiently, and thoroughly, and you will succeed at even the most difficult tasks. The secret of the modest person is that he makes no demands or ultimatums. He does not try to impress others with his abilities. He engages in no dramatic gestures. He simply gets the job done. Because his attitude is disciplined and his demeanor unassuming, he invites no challenges or creates no resistance, and things flow more smoothly. One can call attention to oneself either through self-promotion or through conspicuous self-abnegation or self-deprecation. The latter are also forms of pride, though they pass themselves off as modesty. The truly modest person does not engage in false displays of modesty, feign helplessness, or complain loudly about how difficult things are. Self-deprecation and emotional martyrdom are just other ways of asserting one's ego. Therefore, the modest person is modest even about his own modesty. He understands that completing the work is more important than his ego. Ooh, I love it. Jack is cooking in that one. This is changing to hexagram number 36, darkening of the light. The crying pheasant, eclipse, hiding one's light, brilliance injured, censorship, keeping a low profile, hiding your feelings. That sounds a little funky, huh? Well, he goes on to say, and there's always a turnaround in these. It says, you may face unfavorable circumstances. You may encounter criticism and opposition, and your projects may fail to prosper, or those who have control over your life lack confidence in you. Whatever the problem, there is little that you can do about it for the time being. It sounds a lot like those squares to Saturn, friend. Okay. You must wait out the bad times until things take their turn for the better. Kazemi's in January. Because you are currently trapped in a hostile environment, the best strategy right now is to keep a low profile. You must hide your light. If you try to assert yourself, the people who surround you will not be sympathetic and will rebuff you. If you object to your treatment, people will not understand, and you may make things even worse for yourself. Instead of protesting, it is better to allow those in your environment to believe that you accept the situation. Someone may be jealous of you or resent you. You should not give them an opportunity to harm you. Do not be aggressive and do not call attention to yourself. This is no time to pick a fight. It isn't a time to pick a fight, friends, because Mars is out of bounds and anger can easily get out of control with ourselves and with others. So not a fight-picking time. Conditions are not in your favor right now, and you do not have the resources to prevail. Nevertheless, during this difficult time, you must continue to have faith in yourself. Do not give up just because things are not going well. As the text says, in times of adversity, it is beneficial to remain steadfast and persevere. It is a test of your will and your endurance. You must preserve your inner light, the still, small voice within. Do not let the darkness on the outside extinguish the light on the inside, for then there will be nothing left of you when times improve. People and events will surely provoke you, but you must maintain your composure and your emotional compass. Do not let what others say and do cause you to lose heart. You cannot let their ignorance or bad judgment undermine your self-confidence. They see only a small part of the picture. Their values are not your values. And even though things seem rough right now, time has a way of turning present disadvantages into the seeds of later advantages. You will not be down forever. All right, friends. I love that. The I-Ching, it doesn't beat around the bush. It helps us to understand that sometimes it's time to expand. Sometimes it's time to be visible. Sometimes that's not possible. And that's a stoic perspective that I really enjoy about this divination tool. I'm going to go through the chat here. We've got some really nice comments. We've got super chat. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Marietta says mayo and cranberry sauce is a peak combo. I agree. It's so good. I'm just, my mouth is watering thinking about it. I'm probably about 30 to 40 minutes away from that sandwich and I being together. I saw this dedication recently, Marietta, to Warren Zevon. Warren Zevon was a musician from the 70s, 80s, 90s. Really good, like storyteller, songwriter. If you're familiar with the song "Werewolves in London," ooh, werewolves in London, right? That's Warren Zevon. But he had all these other amazing songs. And David Letterman gave a tribute to him on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction that happened posthumously for Warren Zevon. And in an interview that Warren Zevon gave while he was fighting late stage cancer, David asked him, what would you recommend to people? What realizations have you had as you potentially face this terminal diagnosis? And Warren Zevon said, enjoy every sandwich. Enjoy every sandwich. And I think that's perfect advice for life. Just enjoy those things, whatever that means to you. And I'm going to take that very literally today, and I'm going to enjoy that sandwich. Interesting. My mama's definition of meekness means to be humbly bold. Ooh, I like that. Carol's here. Says, seems like every time I catch you live, I'm cooking or baking something. Today it's turkey yucca soup. It sounds delicious, Carolyn. 8411. That's amazing. I love that you're here. I love that you're cooking. I love that we're inspiring creativity. We've got painters that paint while we listen. We've got people that cook. We've got people chatting. I love it. We're just spending some time together. That's what it's all about. K-Wow, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you and your generosity. K-Wow says, thank you for the forecast. You're always so generous, K-Wow. Appreciate you. Thank you for showing up each week and making your presence known, both intellectually, spiritually, and materially here. Appreciate you, friend. Thank you so much. Yeah. Resist the brushes of the wings. There you go. Okay. So we've got one more little realization for this today before we wrap and go get our beautiful sandwiches. It's the animal, and the animal I have for you is the penguin. Look at this beautiful penguin here. It reminds me of Happy Feet. Remember that movie Happy Feet? We've got an emperor penguin and its fluffy little baby. Penguin, I'm going to read to you from Animal Frequency. I think it's really good advice for navigating some of the oceanic waters of those squares to the Piscean planets. I mean, penguins are so loyal. They go on such great journeys, like a Sagittarian journey. It's a perfect animal. I'm just thinking about it now. I'm like, penguins go on these beautiful journeys to be able to mate and to get food for their babies, while one parent is protecting the nest, the egg, the baby. The other is going great distances, Sagittarian, great lengthy journeys to be able to go to the ocean, Pisces, to bring back sustenance. So we might have to go on some journeys to get our what we need. But Melissa Alvarez, and I've been starting to do the bibliomancy that my good friend Devin suggested. Before I would just flip through, and I think that led to some repeats, but I've started choosing a random number based on the page numbers in this book, and it's led to some new animals that I haven't quite gotten to, which I love. There's also mythological animals in this book too, and maybe we'll get some of those with this method as well. Penguin symbolizes the ability to move between realms. It symbolizes hidden knowledge and opening to new levels of awareness. Penguin easily moves from water to land. Its unique coloring is primary camouflage when in the water. From above, the darkness of its back blends into the color of the sea. From below, the white belly and bright surface of the ocean seem to merge, making them difficult to see from both directions. Penguins survived the extinction of the dinosaurs. Scientists found ancestral fossils that are 60 million years old. All penguins are black and white except for one tiny species, which is blue. Let your uniqueness shine too. This animal has talents for adaptability, astral projection, balance, camouflage, confidence, determination, disciplined, fasting, focused, good manners, grace, intuition, lucid dreaming, nurturing, parenthood, patience, politeness, sacrifice and purpose, waking dreams. There are some challenges associated with it: abandonment, coldness, conflicted, overly serious, poor eyesight, rudeness, territorialism, unmoving viewpoints. Melissa goes on to say, when Penguin appears, it means to develop your spirituality. Analyze what you've learned. Practice using your abilities and look for more topics of interest. You're not finished with your spiritual growth, so keep exploring. Remember exploration? We talked about the Gemini full moon. Meditation and dreaming are two areas where Penguin can show you hidden knowledge and open your eyes to new information, enabling you to become more spiritually aware. Penguin is nurturing. This means that you care for the young and teach them how to be responsible, independent adults. Penguin doesn't have natural ground predators, so it's not afraid of humans and will approach with interest. This means you aren't a fearful person and have an insatiable curiosity, which can get you into trouble if you're not careful. Penguin is a flightless bird, which means that you're grounded, balanced, secure in yourself, and can dive to tremendous depths to uncover any knowledge you seek. Penguin urges you to investigate new thoughts and ideals, important with all of these out-of-bounds planets. It assists you when you need to work with a team. Penguins congregate in large groups, especially during mating season. They can assist you with managing projects, people, and seeing an endeavor through to a successful completion. When you need to get dressed up for an important formal function, Penguin can help you select the right attire and give you the confidence needed to mingle and mix with others at the event. Penguin means you are charismatic, influential, and well-spoken. Penguin can help you deal with any effects of transitions. Penguins, this is the most beautiful part of this. Penguins don't lose their feathers slowly. Instead, it molts, dropping all of its feathers at one time, leaving it naked and forced to stay on land for several weeks until the feathers grow back. This means that even if you feel like you've been stripped of everything, the situation is temporary and life will return to normal. You just can't give up hope, right? A lot of us have been stripped of things, right? Stripped of old forms. And it may feel like we're like naked and afraid, right? But that's where the faith part comes in. That's where the visioning comes in. And eventually those feathers are going to grow back. And those feathers are going to be healthier feathers. They're going to be cleaner. They're going to be more intact. They're going to let us be that renewed, beautiful entity once again. So do a little astral projection. Take care of those you love. Maybe go on a good long walk, even if it's cold out. Bundle up like you see here with these penguins. And I think we'll get through it. All right, friends. That's what I've got for you. Marietta says, go watch something cute this weekend. I recommend Storks. Well, I'll have to check that out. I've been resisting watching Stranger Things. I love that. I love Stranger Things. I love the nostalgia. And I love the I don't know, the craft of it all. But man, there's some trauma that comes with watching that show. It's scary, and too many people, too many beloved characters get offed. I don't know if I can handle it. So no spoilers, but I'm avoiding it for the time being. Season 5 came out this week. Bibliomancy is great for intuitive dives. There you go. Perfect. All right, my friends. I think that's what I've got for you today. Do me a huge favor. Do me a huge favor. Go check out our sales. Okay. Let me, if you'll allow me one final sales pitch for you. I've got all my slides right now, all my webinars and all the slides are 50% off. Go to the store, take advantage of that. There's so much material. There's so much knowledge I've dumped into those webinars, and I hope that it will guide you on the path. It's something that you can always go back and refer to if you're going through a difficult time and you're like, what's going on with this planet in this 10-degree section? Those webinars can be a really great support to hear maybe a new perspective, a new meditation point. I ask all of these focused questions and questions for reflection in the Decans, and tell you stories that I hope will help you through those difficult times. So take advantage of that. And please, please, please go help support my partner at Third Coast Mojo. 25% off. She's got some cool new stuff going on there. Look at this beautiful limited edition Midnight Money soap. If you're struggling financially, let the conjure practice help with that. She's a very, very powerful practitioner. I've seen some amazing miracles take place just from some of the workings that she has done. And it gives me faith and confidence in our future going forward. And I've seen it help so many people. So if you need a little boost right? She has some really great stuff, and it's 25% off right now. Also, that peaceful home, Venus and Taurus, it's amazing. We've been going through some challenging transitions in our life here in our family, and I've been wearing this regularly, and it's helping us to just navigate these without getting upset with one another or impatient. It helps with patience and just seeing the good in each other rather than feeling the anxiety of the changes. I mean, it can really smooth things over. So, love that stuff. Go support her on Etsy, Third Coast Mojo. Go check out my daughter at Sag Moon Magic too. She's doing some really cool things over there, and appreciate all of you who have joined me from her channels as well. Go follow her on TikTok, Instagram, etc. My partner Tanya has a new TikTok, Third Coast Mojo on TikTok, so go make sure you follow over there as well. All right, my friends, that's what I've got for you. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you can. Uh, Go find me on the socials at Spencer Michaud. Go enjoy every sandwich if you are into the sandwiches and whatever that sandwich means to you. I think it's a metaphor for just enjoying the moments in life that are meaningful to you. And it's always easier if you're kind to yourself to start, right? That's how we cultivate kindness to other people, is being kind to ourselves. It's not really worth just giving all that kindness to everyone else if we can't give it to ourselves. We're going to be just fountains of good energy out in the world if we love ourselves and then radiate that outwards. So I hope that you will do that moving forward in this holiday season. And again, I just want to express my gratitude for all of you who are here and have supported me on this channel, and my partner and my daughter. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you this holiday season. And I hope that you have a great weekend moving forward. And we'll see you the next time. Okay? Take care, friends. Peace.